Welcome to the Chemical Engineering Guys podcast, a show in which we share stories and tips from chemical and process engineers. We talk about student and professional life, as well as important aspects of products, processes, industries, and companies. But more importantly, what are the paths that these unique individuals are taking in this ever-changing world? Let's get started. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome once again to the Chemical Engineering Guys podcast. And in this new episode, which as you can see, it's going to be a different type of episode. It's no longer the interview format in which I talk with another fellow chemical engineer. Nope. I want to tell you a little bit on this before we start. I got invited by a space organization from the chemical department on the UET back there all around the world in Pakistan. Space sounds great name. Actually has nothing to do with the actual universe space or so. Space is the Society for Pakistan the Society of Pakistan for Advanced Chemical Engineering from the University of Engineering and Technology back in Lahore, Pakistan. And it was an honor to share my story. I started essentially with the idea of giving a presentation on tips for young engineers because we were talking about what do students actually want to hear. Do they want to show a chemical engineer show what they do daily, or maybe they want to know about a certain process, or maybe they want to know about companies? But I actually think that when you're a student, especially in this pandemic, you are most likely to be frightened, scared, because the economy is not looking great. Chemical engineering is no longer at its, I'm quoting here, peak. Maybe since the oil and gas is decreasing, the pandemic is not helping at all to get great jobs. Everything is going online, and maybe chemical engineers are wondering whether chemical engineering was a great fit for the career path of their lives. So what I do is essentially share a little bit on my story, let them know who I am and why I went for freelancing, online education, entrepreneurship, and so on. And then I share some tips for young engineers, either if you're about to graduate or you're already graduated, if you have a job, if you don't have a job, the importance of landing the correct job, either first job or if you already took a, let's say, not so great job in the beginning, but then in the second job, the importance of correcting your path. For instance, if you wanted to go to process engineering and you selected something in, safety and environment, how you can shift towards process engineering, or maybe you selected consulting because you thought you were going to enjoy that and you see it's not a good fit for you and you want to go all the way to chemical process engineering. So those are some tips and recommendations I'm going to be sharing in the conversation. I also tell them, and I'm pretty sure you guys know because you have been following through all the podcasts, I show them the things I've learned through all my podcasts. So I share tips, recommendations, comments, whatever I think is important from other fellow chemical engineers. So I have been taking notes in this special little notebook, all notes that I think is relevant for young engineers, for maybe fellow chemical engineers, senior engineers, things that I think is so valuable, especially because it comes from another chemical engineer. That's some tips there. And finally, we end up with a Q&A, which is actually out of my, let's say, control. It's just questions asked by the students. So what I think is fit or a good recommendation, I do. So guys, I think you will enjoy this, especially if you're a young student. I think this is a conference I would love to have maybe one semester, 1 year before I graduated. Someone is actually telling me the truth, not just telling you, chemical engineering is great, it's going to be awesome, you're going to land the best job of your life. So guys, let's make this a short version and let's check out the actual online conference. Bye-bye.
The show is all yours, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're quite audible.
Perfect. Let me start sharing screen and let me know if you can see this already. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, sir.
Okay, perfect. So first things first, I want to thank you to the Space Organization and the Chemical Department for inviting me for this webinar. For all those that might know me already from YouTube or my online courses, it's great to have you here as students online. It's great what we can do right now. It's pretty incredible to share from far away Mexico all the way to literally all way around. So as stated, I will be talking about a informal chat for tips for young chemical engineers. I know these are rough times, but so was on 2008, which was maybe the time I graduated. It was at the time also one of the worst crises, and we did okay. So make no worries, this will pass, and the only thing is that we need to adapt. And the great thing on this is that chemical engineers are great for doing that. We have the best set of skills to get great jobs in the market. And if not, you can always start something of your own. So let me start right here. I want to introduce first myself for those that might not know me. And if you already know me, probably you might know something about myself, but either way, I think it's always awesome to let you know of the speaker. So my education is essentially a bachelor in science in chemical engineering, straightforward. I did have some minor in industrial engineering, which I do think is very important because I saw a little bit on marketing, something on inventories, something on plant design and manufacturing. That's great. But the real core of my education is chemical engineering. I really loved all my subjects. I know that many chemical engineers didn't enjoy that much the subject, so make no worries. I know students that graduated suffering the bachelor and still enjoy working as a chemical engineer. So if you might be there wondering or asking yourself if this is the great fit for you, even though you don't enjoy the subject or the courses, make no worries, work is always different from what we are used to studying. Okay, so I graduated back in 2012, so it's almost, what, 8 years ago. And my university is Tec de Monterrey, which is one of the top universities in Mexico and in Latin America, which is great because I had the opportunity to share with a lot of the best talents in Mexico through all, let's say, the states in Mexico. So that's great always to have a great university backing you up. So I did an exchange program in Germany. I do think it's very important to have experience abroad, especially into, let's say, high core countries for chemical engineering. That will be the USA, Germany, UK, maybe Australia, France, whatever country you may think on, maybe Japan, on chemical engineering is always great if you have the opportunity to go at least, I don't know, whatever, 2 weeks will be enough, 2 months, 1 semester. I was there with a special program with Germany and Mexico for 1 year in the Technische Universität at Dresden. It was awesome. It's also great to compare the ways in which Mexicans and Germans study. So that's on my education. Let's talk a little bit more on my work experience, my profile. I started working in Germany for almost 1 year related to plant design. I was a plant engineer, or let's say process engineer, but technically what I was doing is always checking out the content on how to improve a process, new processes, ramping processes, and trying to design existing processes. So it's kind of fun that we do have the computers and all the control panel, but there were no simulations. So it was kind of hard to simulate what if scenarios. Then I really enjoyed that. It was like the dream job, but it was in Germany and I wanted to go back to Mexico. Back in Mexico, I searched for a job. I wanted to be on a factory. So that's the pretty straightforward approach. Either you go to a factory, to a chemical plant, or you go to a administrative or office work. I really wanted to go to chemical plant because I was young and I knew that I didn't want to stay for all my life in a chemical plant, but I did wanted to go there. So if you already know, if you want to go and stay forever in a chemical plant, that will be great. And if you don't know, it's make no worries, you can always change. And I think it's always easier when you start when you start working at a chemical plant. If you want to shift to something at more administrative or more like office job, it's always easier to do so than the reverse, because then you get used to the comfort of being in your office with hot coffee, not moving, and going to a chemical plant, all the safety issues, all the, let's say, all the sounds, all the amount of checking out units is a little bit harder, I think, as you grow up. So in my opinion, you can go directly to the industry first, that will be great. I was working there with polyester polymers and mostly into the textile part. So we had the production of pellets or polyester pellets. And what we did there was essentially extrusion. We did the filaments of the textiles and converted them here. As you can see, these huge textile bovines. But I always knew I wanted to start something of my own, because I don't know about you guys there, but in Mexico, work conditions are not great. We don't have that great vacations. We don't have that great of a pay, and the, let's say, the outcome if you start working, it's very slowly. For instance, I was a junior process engineer. In order to become a, let's say, senior process engineer was about 5 years. And if I wanted to become maybe plant manager, it will be at least 20 years. And I didn't see myself being there 20 years, only increasing so gradually. I wanted to explode. I think we all want to make something of our own. So that's when I decided, started learning, researching. I didn't want to go and open a business. I didn't know, because I do think chemical engineers have problems in the transition from being a chemical plant engineer or process engineer into actually creating a business. So it's kind of fun that we know how to model distillation columns and we know all about fugacity. But when it comes into actual business creations, we are not that great. Or at least it's something I always see is an issue with chemical engineers, that we automatically assume that we need a lot of investment. We need to create a huge plant. We need a great process. We need the right contacts to have the network of sellers, providers, buyers. So automatically you say, no, it's very hard. I cannot do it by myself. So I started researching what chemical engineers can do online. And that's when I started seeing this trend on YouTube, 2012, 2013, that there were a lot of instructors going online, a lot of math, a lot of physics. And I did remember when I was a student, 2008, 9, 10, that there were not so many chemical engineering contents. There was maybe 1 channel, 2 channels, but there was not chemical engineering content. And I really enjoy teaching. So I said to myself, I can be an online instructor. I can train people in engineering and in courses that I really love. So I started doing this in Spanish. It failed. Spanish is not that great of a market, or at least it was not before. And I said, well, I don't want to give up. I want to change into English. I know English is literally the, let's say, lingua of the world. And I know I can reach people from UK, Germany, Americans, people from Latin America, of course. And I was I was very happy to see a lot of people that I wouldn't expect to get as students, especially people from Egypt, people from South Africa, people from India, Pakistan, Malaysia, Japan, Korea. All these markets I didn't see because I was so focused on the, let's say, native English speakers, for instance, UK and USA. And it was awesome because it's something that you don't expect. So my opinion is always, when people ask me if they should do their mother tongue or go into English content, I always say go for English content, because then not only you're going to be reaching more people, but in the English content, you will always get the top content. Let's say when I go on English chemical engineering, there's a lot of people already there. Whereas if I go for Spanish, that will not be the case. So I will be, what do you prefer to be, a small or a medium fish with sharks? Or do you want to be the medium fish with small fishes? Well, in my opinion, I prefer to go into the shark tank and become a shark, be the greatest one. So far, I've been just posting videos of my content, educational content, a little bit more on entertaining. I have been trying to explore what's the best fit for myself because, of course, I know YouTube is more into entertaining rather than education. So I know that there must be something in between. And I have been uploading videos, and so far I have gotten 3 million views, which is great. 50K subscribers, which I know it doesn't sound that great, but for chemical engineering, I'm for sure top 2 or top 3 on the niche. So hopefully, guys, you've been checking out my content. I'm not so hard to find online. Either you search in Google, you will get something, or if you search in YouTube, you will definitely get a top 10 video if you search for chemical engineering. Then I started to do more freelancing and entrepreneurship. The problem was I didn't have the traction, I didn't have the traffic for selling my courses. So I started doing some online tutoring, so direct tutoring, chemistry, chemical engineering, mathematics. That will help me to have cash flow. But my dream and my goal was always to have my online business. Because the great thing in online things is that you can reach a lot of people. There's no inventory, so I have a lot of friends that have physical things that they sell, or they need to give service, they need to go to the chemical plant or to whatever thing, and it's always physical. And my dream was also to, we are in 2020, 2021, I want to do something online that I don't need to go there and be working there. I just want to have this online shop, let it be, and sell courses, teaching people all around the world, because I know there's a limit for the amount of people you can teach physically, but online you can reach a lot of people. So I started working on my website. I learned to do websites because at the moment I didn't have that much cash. I was, of course, not knowing if this was going to work, so I didn't want to spend that much or invest. I started to do a blog so I can increase my traffic to the website. And now I also created a podcast. If you want to check it out, it's the Chemical Engineering Guys show. There's essentially just interviewing people on chemical engineering all around the world and sharing our stories. It's very awesome to see that we share a lot of things, and at the same time we have a lot of different thinking on whether people want to go and work in chemical plants, whether they want to start their own businesses, whether they want to become something that's not even related to chemical engineering and all that. So it's great. Here's the link if you want to check it out, or essentially just check out Chemical Engineering Guys podcast and you will see it in Google searches. We are in Spotify, we're on iTunes podcast and other random, or at least places I don't know, but I know some of you might use, such as Breaker, FM, etc. Okay, and about the courses and trainings, as let's say, as any marketing, you need to have a product to market and distribute. And I was thinking back then, what's the best way in which I can get my goals? So my goals were to teach people as I will want to have been taught in the past. I wanted to have a lot of content to learn by myself at my own pace. So that's when I got into courses. But I also know that trainings or webinars or something more direct is also important. So I started doing some engineering trainings as well, direct tutoring, chemical engineering. But I started to see that the courses was better idea because you can check out the content whenever you want. You don't need to wait for me to get online and ask you questions. You can do it whenever you want. So I started to work on the subjects I love the most. I started with material balances. Then I went for reactor engineering, thermodynamics. And then I started to explore, because the thing here, guys, is that I know that whenever you want to launch a course or a product, let it be, you need to know if it's going to be a good fit for the market. Because one thing is, okay, I want to teach material balances, but I don't know how big is the, let's say, the pool of students that will be willing to pay for that. So I started doing first the courses that pay the most. I started to do oil and gas, I started to do petroleum refining, which I know there's a lot of people. There's mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, process engineers, oil, petroleum engineers. There's a lot of people into oil and gas. And I always wanted to do mass transfer, but I knew there were not so much people. So I did first the courses that sell the most, and then transition to the courses that I actually enjoy teaching and that I will have, or I will love to see if I were a student. And so far, we have been teaching 15,000 students, either paid students, free students. All my students are the same for me. I love that they trust their knowledge in my content. And well, if you want to check out the courses, you might be interested. You can always check them out at chemicalengineeringguy.com/courses. So that's a little bit on myself, the education, work experience, and entrepreneurship. So now that you know who I am, let me show you what we're going to check out. So the first thing I want to do is how to graduate and what your mindset should be. Then the first and second jobs, what's the goal, and some tips that I've learned through all my life, and of course a lot of guests in the podcast. If you have been listening to the podcast, you know that I always ask for tips, comments on, and I love it because it's not just myself, it's what other people, other chemical engineers think about this. Let's start with graduating as a chemical engineer. So these are very basic tips, but I do think they are very important tips. Before you graduate, in my opinion, the best thing that you can do right now is do internships, either online internships and chemical plant internships, but the more you show, the better for the recruitant or for the boss, because they want to see first that you actually are interested in working. Second, that you have references. So if they want to check, they will contact your previous experiences, your bosses, and ask for you whether you're a great fit, if you have good skills, if you are committed to the work, or if you're lazy, or maybe you're irresponsible. I don't know, but that's very important. I will say it's top tier things you can do before graduating to have internships. And if you don't have internships, I will definitely recommend to check out for internships. It's way better to have a internship of 1 month than nothing. So it's always show work. And of course, to have good grades. You can imagine, guys, this is some issue or something important, because we all know that we need to study, but we also know that grades are not the most important things when you're working. So what I always like to see this is like a filter. So having good grades will not ensure you a great job, but will help you. And having not so great grades will definitely not help you to get a job. So maybe you have a good fit, you will need to improve or to show a lot of excitement in the interview if you get the interview, because a lot of machines will make this, okay, average plus, I don't know, 90% and plus will get an interview. And if you have 88%, 85%, well, you will simply not make it. You can be the best fit, you can have the best attitude, and you can have the best internships. But if you don't have the grades or scores, it's pretty hard for you. So I know at this time, I know there's a lot of sophomores here. You can still make it, you can still improve your grades, but this will definitely be something to work from the beginning. And of course, do extracurricular activities. You never know when someone might be interested in basketball, might be interested in running, in hiking, in chess, whatever thing that you enjoy. Like if you enjoy filming, always share it, because there's a lot of people that might have also those hobbies. And if you have a special hobby and you connect either with the recruiting or with the boss or your future bosses, you will have more rapport, and they may say, okay, it's not the best fit, but he has a very good chat. We had a good interview. He has great extracurricular activities. Maybe we should give him the opportunity. And okay, that's before you graduate. It's something that either you worked through that or not. But let's say you're probably searching for a job right now, almost graduated. What you should do? Well, number one, work on your resume. Your resume is literally the front of your presentation. So you need to work it perfectly, add all relevant skills. I will even say that you need to make a resume for each company. Add the specific skills, the specific things that you learned, the specific goals for each one of the jobs that you're applying. I know it's a lot of work, especially I always ask my friends and fellow chemical engineers how many applications you did in order to get your first job. I hear from 10 to 100, and the most extreme, I will hear maybe 150, 200. So imagine doing that. It's a lot of work, I know, but the more you do it, the more probability to land a job. Work on your soft skills. The soft skills are essentially how you present with yourself, how you present with others, how you interact as a team, how you interact in hierarchy structure, how's your public speaking, and so on. Those are skills that are hard to master, but are very important, and they will definitely work. I have actually this story of a friend of mine that told me that he brought one of her friends to an interview because they were interviewing in the same place, but for different jobs. And his friend took the interview, didn't get accepted, but stayed on the lobby waiting for his friend. And while he was getting interviewed, one of the executives was there and he saw her and she was introducing herself, that she went into an interview, that she felt insecure, but they started talking. And when the other friend went out of the interview, the one that was neglected first got a job because she talked with an interview. I know it's a lot of luck, but that means a lot of presenting yourself, going out is always useful. Use LinkedIn properly. I've been using LinkedIn as my main goal of business, but you are your business. You are selling yourself to the best bidder or to the market. So the very first thing you need to do is have a great LinkedIn profile and then know how to use it. I'm going to be showing this a little bit later. So make no worries if you're wondering how to use LinkedIn properly. Another thing you need to do is network. Talk to all your classmates, to professors. If you're working, talk to anyone because you never know who's going to help you to get your next opportunity, your next job. And more importantly, be patient, guys. I know it's hard and we know a lot of our friends are getting jobs right away and you are maybe 1 week searching job, then 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Be patient. The job will eventually land. And actually, you can imagine this as if all your friends are getting jobs, the market is getting saturated, meaning that the other opportunities are arising because there's no longer people searching for a job. So eventually it's going to happen. And my rule is always one job is better than no jobs. So if you are, say, wondering if you should take one job, you may be saying, okay, it's a good fit or not. Well, definitely go for it. It's better to get the job and search for another job that you actually enjoy because it's easier for someone working. You will be more patient because you're earning your cash, you're getting money, but at the same time, you are patiently looking for jobs. And also, whenever someone sees someone already working, it's easier to get someone from that job to another job than someone that has no job. And as stated before, guys, once you're working or doing your internship, apply for other jobs, even though you may not want to go to other jobs, you love your job. Just do it for the sake of knowing what's your market value. Also, in some cases, you can get some, I don't know, if you get a great opportunity and you say, okay, I'm not sure, but I will use this opportunity to rise my income. I will say to my job, to my boss, if he can compare the incomes and if he can get more or give me one raise. That can be one idea. Or maybe you just see an opportunity that's great, better than the one that you have right now, and you say, okay, yeah, I actually wasn't looking for it, but I landed this great job. And that's very important because it's something that I don't see people do. They get to this job and they accept this job for life. Never do that. Always go for more. Talking about LinkedIn, how to use it, these are some tips. These are my personal opinion. I read some articles on how to use it. I will recommend you to do so. Always check out a course on how to use LinkedIn. And if you can do it, especially for job search, because I've read a lot of LinkedIn for formal, let's say, business, how to increase traffic and all that, but you are selling yourself. Remember this. So the very first thing you need to do is, of course, search contacts, either direct or indirect. Of course, they must be relevant people. Don't just add people that you say, oh, okay, this guy is a operation engineer in another country. Or, oh, look at these guys in another city I will never move to. So, of course, look for people that you will want to work with. Then start posting your, let's say, whatever thing you want to post, your job activities that are relevant to the field. Start participating in groups. If you see someone posting lots on, and he's a senior engineer or maybe a plant manager, start liking, start asking in the post, start always saying awesome content, I love it. So he will start noticing you, and then it's way easier to contact him than just directly sending an invite and a random message. And also, one powerful tool is, I know that there's a lot of people that has done the same thing as you. Someone was already graduated and they had problems searching for a job, but right now that was maybe 5 years ago. So students that graduated back in 2015, go and contact them. It's easier for you because you're a student, you study on the same university, or maybe someone that has ties to your student life, and just ask him, hey, are you looking for jobs, or can you send me the email of the recruiter or the job boards or whatever? And they might even send the direct CV or resume to a colleague that they know it's searching for a candidate. And how you should not use LinkedIn. And this is what I see a lot of incomplete profiles, no photo, no complete information, or if there's information, it's not that much. They don't add what they do in their internships. It's only, they only say, okay, environmental intern. Okay, what was your role? What you work with? Add more stuff. Secondly, do not spam people. People know when you send automatic message. So you just send the name and company and job changes, they will notice. So try to read the profile, try to tell them, okay, I read about your profile, really enjoyed the company, I know you work on that. It will be awesome if you can get this opportunity for me. Also, do not ask directly for a job, always create rapport. It's like selling. If you want to sell something, you don't say buy it. You start working the client, you start working the prospect and create rapport, and then eventually you ask. You don't say give me a job, you just start asking how do you get into that company, how do people apply there, how's the job culture, and so on. And do not join random LinkedIn groups. You have a limited amount of groups that you can join, so you must be strategical. Join them, try to interact with the people, and if it works, great. And if it does not work, go and check out other groups. Hey guys, we're almost half the content. Let's check out what you should do on your first job or second job. So the relevant fields that you should be applying are the following ones. And of course, this is an opinion, but sometimes I always see students that they focus only in one industry and they don't know that they can apply into other industries. Some of them might be related, some of them might not be related. So I hope this is an idea of what type of industries you should be applying. You can work, of course, we'll know this, oil and gas is great industry in the sense that they pay a lot and it's awesome industry, but unfortunately there's always highs and lows. So take care on that. You can always check out energy industry, pharma, you can check out anything on environment, maybe safety issues. Any company that requires to create a product at industrial level will require safety and quality. So there's always job fields for that. It might not sound sexy, but there's job opportunity there. You can check out EPC, which is engineering, procurement, and construction, which is not that into chemical engineering, but chemical engineers can have a fit on that. Automotive industry, once again, not the best fit, but you can do it. And my best opinion is always check out for raw materials that are being produced near your city. So it might be cement, glass, aluminum, plastics, textiles, polymers, pulp, paper, food, beverage, painting, coatings, whatever you think is being produced near your home or your city or the city that you want to work in. Check out the companies and you will find a lot of company and just start applying. And of course, you can always go into more, I always say this, not so chemical engineering jobs, but they are actually chemical engineering jobs, such as business consulting or finance, banking. It's also okay if you can manage a material balance. Why will not you be able to manage a finance sheet? Also, the type of jobs that you should be searching are junior levels, entry levels. Never go for the senior level. It's very hard that you get that, especially because those are always search for existing engineers that are right now in the field. So it will be almost impossible to compete versus someone that's already working as a process engineer, junior engineer, and so on. Check out process engineer, plant engineer. That's the typical one. You can also check out analyst. Unfortunately, analyst has a lot of meanings nowadays, so it can be something like literally just adding data to a computer, or it may be someone that's analyzing all the data of a chemical plant and you need to do regressions, compare. So it can be as awesome or as terrible as the name analyst implies. Go for design engineering, utilities engineering, also in the other side that might not be so chemical engineering, but it's also a great side of opportunity. It's automation engineering, control engineering, maintenance, and production, environmental, safety, quality engineering. Those are also always present in even not so chemical plants. So if you're in an auto manufacturer, they will need safety issues, or they will need an engineer that takes care of all the chemicals that are being disposed. So that's on the first and second job. And some tips or what I've learned before we pass to the Q&A. These are a lot of tips I've been writing literally on my notebook, as you can see. I love to remark tips that other people say, because it's whenever you ask what's the best tip you were given, it's something that has marked someone, or is something that is present. Because if I ask you right now, what's the best tip you were given? It's something that definitely it's right now present in you. And these are all the, let's say, tips I've gotten from several students, several guests, chemical engineers or process engineers mostly. So let me go select some random ones. Don't stay in your comfort zone. Getting back, remember you're in your current job, always search for more jobs. Go out, try to get more projects, try to always go for more. Be more social and attend to more parties was a one that always repeat with chemical engineers. I don't know, many of us were not so socially active, myself included, and I will love to attend more parties before so I could meet more people. And if I know more people, I will probably get better opportunities. Become a leader. That's easy to say, hard to become. Network at the university, not only with your fellow colleagues, but also with other type of students, maybe students from marketing, students from MBA students, whatever professor you can meet or conference. It's whoever you can network, try to network, because the easier you will get opportunities. Trust yourself, fake it till you make it. So that's awesome, because I really think that when you are working, you don't know that much. So you need to fake it till you actually become someone that knows about the process. Compete versus yourself. There's no need to compare with others. Of course, it helps, but always try to improve yourself. This is one I love to hear a lot. You won't be using what you learn, so don't make no worries if you don't remember about fugacity or Murphy efficiencies or automation control loops, because eventually you will learn that at the job. Study or work abroad. That's some tip I always hear a lot. I will say that work abroad is harder, but study abroad is easier to do. Learn about automation and control. That's a funny one. I've gotten two members that say that, and they were not directly working in automation and control. So I will say they are more into process engineering, and they see that automation and control is very important. Expose your work to the world. The more, in the same case as LinkedIn, the more you show your work, the more someone will say, okay, I know this engineer is always showing his process engineering work. I can ask him, or maybe I'm looking for someone related to process engineering, and it will be great to have you as an asset in the company. It's easy to set apart in the sense that nobody is actually thinking daily to become better or to be the top tier. You will see something that happens a lot is the engineering focus is you get used to going to job, doing the minimum or doing the least amount of work. And what you will see is that a lot of people think this. They just go there, they feel safe, comfort zone, and work and go back. So it's kind of easy to expose yourself and set apart. So always focus on that whenever working. Fail quick, learn quicker. That's pretty straightforward. Make no worries. Everyone fails, but the important part here is to learn about the mistakes. Go beyond the status quo. That's also very important. As stated before, always go for more. Try to think out of the box and have a great team or create a great team. That's also always helpful whenever having to work towards one goal. That will be very important. And those are some tips, guys, I've learned on my podcast and through my work experience. I will want to go to the question and answer or ask me anything section if it's possible. Check this out. I don't know if the host will let me. I don't know if there's chat enabled. Hi, after. Okay, if there's no questions, no comments, that will be it. I don't know.
I have a question.
Sure. Hello, sir. Should.
Sir, I'm Dhala, and my question is it better to do MBA after engineering or we choose Masters in Engineering Management?
Well, that depends a lot on what you want to focus. MBA is always great. I also recommend MBA or in general master's degrees to wait, graduate, work in something, start to get to know what's the industry all about, and maybe 2-3 years, especially if you don't have a great job, you can always change to student life. It's like your last joker. You say, okay, this job is not great for me, but I have my last card that is going for an MBA or master in engineering management. I will also think that if you want to remain in the industry or manufacturing, a management or MBA, no, a master in management engineering will be a better fit. But if you want to go abroad and more, I would recommend the MBA. I have a lot of colleagues that have studied the MBA, especially in the US, and they have great opportunities because they break this chemical engineering fit or engineering fit, and now they are MBA students. I've got a question in the
Thank you, sir.
No, thank you for your question. You too. Have a nice day.
I have another question.
So, Sama Najam, what is the role of chemical engineer in the pharma industry? There's a lot of roles. For instance, I know a lot of people, the entry level will be either going to the lab and start learning about kinetics and making pharma tests, or the better entry job that I will prefer to have is go and check out the reactors. You're working as a process engineer, either batch reactor or special reactors. So those are the main roles, especially if you stay there. Of course, you will grow. You can become a plant manager. You can also go to the marketing area, sales. That is not quite related to pharma itself. It's rather just selling a product, which in this case will be pharmaceutical. Any other question? You can use the chat if you want to as well, or just the microphone will be great as well.
I have one question.
Okay.
So it's not related to chemical engineering, but it's interesting. So, what was your monthly earning while doing job, and what's your monthly income while doing YouTube?
Okay, so I don't know about your monthly expectations, but when I was in Mexico, I was earning about maybe $1,000 per month, and the expectation was maybe to get $2,000 once I jumped to the second level. But the main issue was also that the top tier, the plant manager was earning about $4,000 per month, which in my opinion was like, okay, you can have a nice life. But the problem was that they had a lot of vacations that they couldn't use. And right now, well, I'm earning almost that 4 or 5K monthly, but I don't need to work in a chemical physical plant, so that's great. And the thing here is always think as an entrepreneur or freelance as having highs and lows. You can always explode certain months. For instance, November is a great month for myself. You can have a lot of sales. You will sell maybe more than 2-3 months of what you will earn before as an engineer. So that's the great thing, that there's no limit. And when you're working, especially as process engineer, you have this set of goals or expectations that you will, for instance, you will never earn more than 5K per month. And that was very sad because of course, we all want to earn much more money. So Usair Khan, I hope that was the answer you were expecting. Is Mexico offering any international culture exchange program or internship? I know there's a lot of programs for chemical engineering, not so much. The only few programs I know are not sponsored, so you need to pay for it, so that's not so nice. It used to have some programs with European countries, because essentially the European governments pay for these programs, and Mexico will simply exchange students, one Mexican student for one, I don't know, French student or so. Some tips for improving soft skills. My best tip for all is attend a Toastmaster club. I'm pretty sure there's a Toastmaster club there. And if not, currently there are a lot of online clubs, and they will teach you, well, not teach you what, you will train public speaking. That's my best tip or straightforward tip. Sir, is it fine to go for further studies in one go, or first take experience of job after bachelor's? So that's always very personal, but as my experience will say, I will go to job, learn what's the industry all about, because you have been studying all your life, so you don't know what's real life. Go out, see what's actually working. You may enjoy it, you may hate it, but at least you will be able to go back and study a master's degree. And then you can also focus your attention. Maybe you didn't want it, or you didn't like that much process engineering. You want to focus into marketing. Well, do a master's degree in marketing. Or maybe you want to focus into pharmaceutical and you were working in paintings and coatings. Do a master's degree in pharma. That's my opinion. There's no correct or incorrect question answer. So it's hard to say for sure if studying directly it's better. Also, many of the people that study straightforward would say that yeah, it was great because at 27 years old, I had my master's degree, I landed the best or a very great job, and I have been doing my professional life. And at 32 years, I will be being a manager, plant manager degree or process senior level. So no straightforward question. Answer.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have a question that in chemical engineering we are studying many subjects like thermodynamics, stoichiometry, and we have sometimes means there are a lot of pressure of the study. How can we manage that if there is some motivation for the student, because most of the time they are facing depression because of it?
Okay, if I understood, how to get motivated to study hard subjects? Was that the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, number one, the first motivation should be to pass and not to fail, either because it is a lot of time that consumes you to get through that subject, or because someone's paying for that. So that's the very first motivation that should be enough. The second motivation that can help is you need to learn, and you are there because you selected that subject or career. So it's kind of funny that you want to back up of something that you decided by yourself. And the third motivation will be there's nothing that a engineer or someone studying engineering cannot do. So a lot of people has passed through that. And if you have been surviving mathematics and physics, it's straightforward. Just keep studying, dedicate more time. Actually, I would recommend to dedicate time. If you don't understand something, keep studying. So I know it's not fair that some people will understand that concept in 1 hour and you may need 10 hours. So yeah, not motivating at all. But the only thing that will let you to accomplish that is time, dedication, study. So there's no straightforward to get motivated. I will prefer to say discipline. People who achieve things is because they are disciplined, not because they are motivated. Motivation dies eventually. Discipline, dedication, work always succeed.
Thank you, sir.
So your experience for a job is necessary before doing any further studies. Sometimes some MBAs will ask for you to have some experience. I will also say, as stated before, it's always better to study later once that you have your previous experience, because then you can compare with the real life. And if you go directly from your bachelor to your master's degree, you will not be able to do so. So that's also one thing to consider. Not a question, just feedback here. Really informative content, particularly LinkedIn and professional tips. Yeah, well, thank you. And there's a lot of tips I will be adding in my blog, the chemicalengineeringguy.com/forward blog. And you can always check out content, or I would recommend you always get courses or follow people that talk about that. There's a lot of content of people showing how to use LinkedIn. On your personal experience, which chemical engineering field do you think is the best in terms of knowledge as well as salary? Okay, in terms of knowledge, there's no, you can know, or you will never end up learning a lot. So there's no limit for knowledge in any field. So I will go for the salary thing. I would say oil and gas is the top paying industry. You can also get some in business consulting if you get or land a correct job. Which field is highly paid? Well, that depends also in the regions, but I will say anything that produces raw materials, it's typically greatly paid. Anything that produces fine chemicals, such as pharma or catalysts, is also always greatly paid. What will you prefer, either fertilizer industry or oil refinery, which will be more entertaining and have a learning environment than other? Oil refinery, it's always the backbone of process engineering. Chemicals engineers exist because of oil. There were mechanical engineers and they had problems with these substances. So that's when the chemical engineer started to exist. So the mechanical engineer wanted to work with substances, and I would say oil is way more interesting. But fertilizer industry is also very important, especially if you're into agro business or agro industry. It's always awesome to have fertilizer as your backbone, because it's not the same to say I work in an oil refinery. That will be always great for any industry. But if you say you're into fertilizers, you will get much more attention towards that area. Of course, they will prefer someone that's in fertilizer industry than oil and gas. Any other question, my friends?
Sir, not a question, but I just wanted to say that I've been watching your videos for a long time. That's why I thought that I should contact you, and I always thought that it might not work for you to teach a bunch of students all around the world, but it was great. I enjoyed it a lot, and I learned a lot of things. And there were almost 80 people in this meetings, and I think all of them learned a lot of stuff in this session.
Thank you for your thinking on myself and on your invitation. I really enjoy having this type of chat. with fellow chemical engineers, students, graduates, and yeah, it's always great to connect. There's something that we can share. Okay, which one is better, MBA or Master in Chemical Engineering? Once again, depends on what you want to do. MBA will broaden your panorama, and a Master in Chemical Engineering will most likely focus your attention towards, well, chemical engineering. So for instance, if you want to become a plant manager, or you want to be at a refinery or sell technical sales in chemical products, I will go for chemical engineering. But if you want to have more open panorama, the problem is also that you have more competition, because MBA is also a very common degree to compete versus. So that's depending on what you want to go for. Okay, I think we have still some minutes.
I have another question.
Sure.
As a chemical grad, how would you foresee the future of a chemical grad in Germany? Are there enough opportunities for doing job then?
Okay, yeah. I would say most developed countries are having problems with a lack of students going into engineering fields. If you go to Germany, you will see that there's a lot of people into business or something related to business, marketing, or let it be finance. And there's not so many people going into actual engineering hardcore. So unfortunately, it's us, the third world people, that are going to those countries and taking those jobs, which is great for us, of course. But I do see there's a trend, even also in third world countries, such as we guys, that the students are no longer going to engineering. They are either going to computer or programming, or going to MBAs, marketing, business. So in my opinion, if you want to be an engineer in maybe Germany, France, UK, you have a very good chance of getting there. There's a lot of programs attracting talent. So if you have a good fit, what does that mean? It means that you have a good engineering fit, good English, you're willing to learn German or French, you will have a lot of opportunities there.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I was asking that the oil and gas, the industry, they are non-renewable sources. So, can you tell us about any other industry which would be more, effective for us?
Okay, I just stated it's the oil and gas is non-renewable. So the alternative and what our governments and markets are pushing towards is clean, green energy. So that's the main goal, trying to adapt to the actual trend, because I see some of my friends going into wind energy and then suddenly it was not that great, or they go to biofuels and it's not growing that great. Right now, lithium batteries, or all this trend towards electricity is growing. I would say maybe it's a good fit to go towards that, but there's no way I can tell you which field is the correct. Green energies overall will be always great, but the idea is to focus in which green energy is going to remain.
Okay, sir. So finally, I want to thank you on the behalf of everybody in this online webinar, especially all the useful tips for us chemical engineers. I think everybody has now far more understanding about entrepreneurship, and especially related to chemical engineering. So I want to just thank you, and yes.
Thank you. And before we finish, I just want to give you my contact information, just in case you have questions. You can reach me at contact@chemicalengineeringguy.com or via LinkedIn. It will be great to connect with you guys. Or you can check out my courses directly here. Also, I prepare a special coupon for you guys. I know that the year is starting, so you may be motivated towards studying. So it will be 1 month free trial for all my courses. Just use the coupon space / or I don't know what's the symbol webinar. You can add it directly here, or just send me an email and remind me that you attended the webinar with space, and I can help you with that. And of course, it's always my pleasure Thank you for the invitation, friends. And I think that will be it. I don't know what a formal closure for this, but I really appreciate you took the time of listening to my story. And of course, guys, there's a lot to do. I know this is not the best point of life with the COVID-19 and all this, but someone needs to produce our energy, someone needs to produce our products, someone needs to produce our food, and there's no other way around. Chemical and overall engineers are very important still in our society.
I think now we'll conclude our today's webinar. And I want to thank you again, sir, for your precious time.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And before you go, I will really appreciate it if you take the time to share this podcast with your fellow colleagues, classmates, friends, or really anyone that might be interested on the topic of chemical engineering and its related fields. If you found this content helpful and valuable, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review. Thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot.